All right, I'm Daemonxel, and this is Pod Sessions, a new series on the channel, which is going to delve into Eve Echoes and just random topics about the game itself. This week, on this inaugural or first episode, we are going to tackle Terran Federation, what it is, what it was, and basically a Terran Federation remembrance. So I got everyone, a lot of people here, the old CEOs from the corporations, members of TF. Why don't you all just sound off one by one and give me your who you are, where you were, and basically which corporation, which alliance, and that sort of thing. All right, let's start off with I'm gonna go round robin from my screen here. Keltan.
So I was the original leader for Atlas Empire, and then started Terran Federation, brought everyone here, and yeah, and then I left, and someone else took over.
And Likander.
Hey, I'm the founder and CEO of Dead. I took a hiatus from the game about 6 months ago, and I passed the torch of Dead CEO to Immortal Rage.
All right, and since we're talking Dead, Tru Zealot.
Hey, it's your boy Tru Zealot, director of Dead, 2 years now. Previously, Sky Marshal, Propaganda, Diplo. I kind of had my hands on a little bit of everything related to TF. I just wanted to meme, wound up killing some bugs.
All right, Rifle.
I'm still the CEO of TLC, and basically the content creators of, or one of the content creators of TF at some point.
Penguin.
Hello everyone, I'm Penguin or Dr. Loving Game. I'm one of the directors of The Love Circle and the main editor of videos for the corporation and Pod 5 as a whole.
All right, next we have Boris the Bullet.
Yep, I was Boris the Bullet. I was an officer in DUNE and one of the Diplos for TF. And towards the end, I helped in some of the leadership stuff too.
All right, next we have Weird Bob.
Hey, this is Weird Bob. I was part of Evo 1, and I was the FC for Evo and for the Terran Federation.
And last but not least, we have Ziklon.
Yep, I'm Ziklon doing TF. I was basically more like line member and lower officer in Ascended Legends, or AL.
So we're not going to go round and round. We're just going to jump all in. So let's just talk about our beginnings. What do we remember when Terran Federation first started?
I think this one's more of a Keltan and Likander question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kelton.
I was gonna say the original concept was created before Eve even came out. We were playing together during the beta, and then I eventually brought Dead in, and they were thrilled. Hopefully, I think Likander. And then it was actually me, Likander, and then there was Chevron, and we created it.
So let's we got to go back a little bit further because we didn't just meet in the beta. We actually had ties to and familiarity from the other game, Second Galaxy SG. That's where you hear a lot of the stuff about Dead is from that game. But yeah, that's where we met. They were part of. I think we were all part of the Northwest. Is that right, Kelton?
I was a part of Eden.
Eden, that's right. Eden and Northwest. We had that coalition.
Yes.
And yeah, so we all kind of meshed together. We knew each other, and we kind of wanted to get like a strong core of people to start this game fresh with. And so yeah, Keltan contacted me, Chevron, and who else? I think the CEO of TLC came later, right?
Yeah, they were later. I think it was it wasn't SSS. It was
No, it was just me. I think it was just us and the two Atlases.
yeah.
And then once we moved into Fountain, that's when we started pulling the other corps, because didn't we have to kick out that small alliance that was there?
It was Operation Eviction Notice.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so basically, Dead went ahead and did the forward operations. We parked in YW and YW, TAC 9, I think it was,
Yes.
and we just operated from there and created a bulkhead for the Atlases to move in their assets.
Yes. By the way, Atlas Empire and Atlas Corporation are two different. We just happen to have the same name. So Chevron's Atlas was separate too.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and refer throughout this podcast as Chevron's Atlas as the douchebag buddy fuckers.
Just jumping right in with it.
Yeah, no, like you said, this is completely uncensored, it's unscripted. Yeah, the Keltan's Atlas was always referred to as ATLE. They were the executor. I know. Sorry, guys. The little pilot also wants to get in on this. He was born Terran Federation.
Oh yeah.
In his heart, because we'll get to that later on. But but yeah, the ATLE was the executor corp that of TF, and like I said, the co-founder was dead at the time. And I believe during Operation Eviction Notice is when TLC came in. But Boris, DUNE came in before TLC, if I remember correctly, right?
I actually hadn't joined DUNE until after they were already in.
That's a Zealot question. He facilitated that.
I always thought DUNE was like a secondary core of that because we always were together.
They knew each other from Second Galaxy as well.
We fought each other in wars, so we had that mutual respect. We weren't allies in SG, we were fierce enemies.
David joined.
Yep, I'm just gonna jump in. We also joining us is David, and he was a member of Wallet Warriors at the time. Current alliance now is Sixth Seal Alliance, Executor Corps, PHPC, Paleholds. Am I correct, David? Why don't you say hello and give us a little background on it. He is very vocal today.
Hey man, thanks for having me. Sorry I'm a little bit late there. I got the times wrong, unfortunately. You wanted a little bit of background on myself and joining?
Yeah, a little bit of background on you, you guys, when you guys joined. Right now we're talking about the beginning, the initial seeds of Terran Federation, how it started. Like, how did you guys get pulled into Terran Federation? If I remember correctly, it was during that Operation Eviction Notice.
Yeah, that was actually when I had joined Wallet Warriors. I actually just was a neutral pilot and flew down and started fighting Goodspace and Grim X and the rest of Wallet Warriors until I joined them. And then shortly found out that you guys had handed us an eviction notice, and I got myself slapped around by some TF pilots, and we eventually joined in with you guys.
That was sort of our early recruiting method. Was we went in, we wrecked shop, and anybody who fought back and like stuck around and was able to, put up those good fights, like they got the invitation. I think that's how TLC and Wallet Warriors both came into the fold.
Yes, it was TLC and Wallet Warriors were the only ones out of all the corporations out there that we offered.
Oh yeah, that was during eviction notice. That Patone guy from Reki, he didn't like the fact that we kicked him out, and so he kept bringing like death frigs in and like hitting our miners, and I think that's what led to a lot of the early, I guess, tips with Pantheon, because we didn't even know who the heck they were at that time. I think they were part of Happy Bees.
Yep, they so that's how we originally kind of like pissed that dude off, and then I think it was Batman and a few others went down to Delve just for like a little raid fun, and they're all of Happy Bees started like forming up against them, and they just kept slaughtering their fleets. So that's when they were like, all right, we're gonna go burn Fountain. We're like, okay, see you soon, bud.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. I
Yeah, you did that a lot too. I remember your raiding parties.
Well, I think for me personally, that's like where TLC really started to shine in my mind. Like once TLC came in to Terran Federation, like these lobsters are fucking nuts. All right,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
like there would be like 100 recce sitting on the out gate, and then you would see TLC jump in with like 5 condors and just chase off like a fleet of 50, a fleet of 100. There's videos out there of TLC just going wild with like 5 stabber FSIs or SFIs versus.
Oh, they were
like,
kings of the stat. Yeah, they were kings of the SFI. I remember that.
They were kiting kings, yeah.
Yeah, I just remember when ATLE just joined TF after OP4S kind of took a dip. Well, TF was blue anyways, as far as I remember, so we moved in. And just when we joined the Discord, I think this inspecting Silent Alliance video was online, and I just loved it. I saw it and okay, these guys are awesome. I think
I remember
it was
some
like
cool videos from TLC. One of my favorite ones was you started using what was it? You sampled from the mask, and it was just a register, the little scene where the mask is typing on the register, and you just kept ding ding ding, ding. And you just show all of the kills for each one. It was great.
Yeah. Well,
okay, that was an offset that we did against SHH because I think it was because a problem that Tahini was with a slasher. He took some loot. He took some Type C loot, and suddenly it was a war. Rifle wanted to test the cover-up ships, mostly bombers. So we came into the north and started popping some PvP, some fun times.
Oh yeah,
I love that video. It was.
We literally
Let me just butt in here real quick. Ziklon, you were also in the beginning too with Ascended Legends, correct? Because I remember they were one of the Keystone corporations.
No, we joined in October, like mid-October after OP4S fell after opposing. We were one of the founding corps of OP4S, but then OP4S took like 1 or 2 mouthful too much with Death Phantom and Genesis, also Catch-22, and seems like the leadership couldn't handle that much. And then we joined TF. Well, and at that moment the war with Silent started as well. So when I joined, we just saw that video. It was awesome. With I think it was like the one with the bombers investing the north.
Yeah. So.
And I'm sorry. Let me just before you finish, Bob. When did you join with Evo? When did they join? Because I don't remember. My timeline's shot right now.
Evo, almost everyone who was the founders of Evo were part of Trimark Industries at the time. We broke off because we were butting heads too much with Trimark upper management. And so we just created our own little thing, and we were all just PvPers at the time. And then we just kept on constantly attacking Trimark and Pantheon and everyone else in that area. And that's when I think Keltan came to us and was like, "Hey, you want to join us?" And we joined. That's when we just like, "Okay, yeah, sure." And we just went up there, and next thing you know, we were part of the Terran Federation.
Yo, Evo had some bonkers videos versus Trimark, man. Yeah,
so,
like.
To caveat, just let me get this out real quick. The caveat on that, with Evo joining, fun fact, even though the Evo leadership hates me because I had to play mediator between them and a lot of the other corp CEOs, but I was the deciding factor for them to get in because originally Keltan wasn't going to let them in because they were so small.
Yep.
I didn't really pay attention to the politics at the time.
Yeah, Likander also convinced me to create more than one alliance because at the time you could only have 10 corps, and I didn't want to go over 10. And he was like, "All right, we gotta expand, dude." I was like, "Yeah, you're right." And I think Evo was one of the first ones into TF2. You were the reason we created TF2.
Yeah.
Yeah, ATLE joined in TF4 actually, so we were kind of late, to be honest.
We had to make room for all the alt corps.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you gotta remember the alt corps.
Yeah.
But
I think when we finally got built TF2, I think some of the other alliances out there, like Genesis was already on like their 6th or 8th alliance. Silent was
Yep.
already on their 3rd or 4th alliance.
Yep.
And I know everyone was like fighting us, but we were also, if in retrospect, looking at like Pantheon and Happy Bees and all that, we actually had the fewest numbers than anyone else, and we held our ground.
And it was a huge margin. Like, even at our height, we were like a total of 4 full alliances of 10. Like, at our height.
Yeah, just when I joined, I was like the first of AL who moved in because I was a minor at that time, actually. Until I got myself a Daemonxel, and in Eventual 3, I mined myself a Daemonxel. And then I joined, I just brought the Daemonxel there, put some stuff in like YZ. Then it was said, oh, we roaming. Then, oh, can I join? And then I got on a fleet with, I think, Deathlux, Jetband, and some others. Basically, in a little faction fleet with like a Phantasm and an Ashimu and some other stuff. Then we went roaming into Delph. And I can still remember it. We just completely fucked up some people in like 319 and all of that. It was like the first thing I did when I was done with moving like my 4 or 5 ships was directly going for PvP.
Well,
they didn't do anything else before we got our wedding space assigned in Pegasus. And even then, most of my people hadn't even moved in because, like, we were 2 corps with ALI, like the industry corp and the main corp, and there was so much stuff to move.
Yeah. So we were pretty much vastly outnumbered by any organization that we came across, but our fleets, like, our ability to adapt, our FCs, just our doctrine and period, like, when we got into like big, large-scale fleet engagements, it almost wasn't even close because we almost always devastated the opposition.
Yeah. Yep. It also helped that like back then, half of the population of TF was basically dead too.
Yeah.
So when we did need people, you guys brought out people. You really did.
And Likander, you were a really good FC, to be honest with you. I mean,
I'm gonna start FCing again.
Yeah,
by the way.
I know I have a lot of people. I know there's a lot of backlash towards you, like Ender and stuff like that. And I've gone on record numerous times. I've never ever had a problem with you in Terran Federation, or basically most of the people in Terran Federation. I'm pretty mellow to get along with. But what you were talking about just now is a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about next, which was basically the culture of Terran Federation and our fighting style.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So our very first.
What do you think? What do you think made us popular? Like, because everyone looking back at it now, if you peruse on Reddit and some of the wars are going on, everyone looks back on the Fountain War, the first Fountain Wars, as like the height of Eve Echoes, the golden age of propaganda, and everyone looks fondly back on Terran Federation.
Well, that's because Zealot developed a meme style that was non-toxic and just kind of, it was fun to play with. It involved everybody. It got people, because who doesn't like Starship Troopers? We're all space nerds. So that's like the manly space soap opera, Starship Troopers, man versus bug.
Can I reel it back for a second? Like,
Go ahead.
the whole Starship Troopers thing, like, almost didn't happen. Like, at the time, we were all like persona non grata from Genesis, and we were all like thinking of like just stupid cringy names. It was fucking awful. It was awful.
Yeah.
And
it was terrible.
And then we just had like some random line member from Dead was like, I don't care, man, let's just call it Terran Federation and be done with it. I was like, dude, what the hell's Terran Federation? I looked it up. It's like Starship Troopers, and I was like, dude, we could meme the shit out of this. Keltan didn't want to go for it, and then we made a meme with Keltan's face on it. Sold.
Yeah. So I think
I love that propaganda.
What drew a lot of people to TF was we got the first, outpost kill, like man defense outpost kill was TF Federation.
Yep.
and we actually had to fight the defenders, and then we had to fight a Russian team that came in to try and be the first to kill him. So we were fighting on like 3 fronts for that battle, and it was what was that corporation or that alliance, guys? Do you remember? It started with like a Z or something.
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
Is that LP? No.
Was it Sky?
No,
No,
I think
it wasn't Sky.
Was
It
it
might have
Give Me
been
money?
What's Alliance ever?
What were they?
Alliance
They would show up like once a week with like some new crazy ships and just do some real damage.
They used to
It wasn't a
run
big
the-
corp.
They used to run the most blingy ships you can
Yeah.
fit.
Yep. But one thing for when we were starting to create Terran Federation was I was looking for corporations that weren't that were really well-rounded. And I think that's how we started out and we were so efficient. Because I was looking for efficiency. So like corporations would come in and they would have their own indie corporation. They would be able to build their own ships and supply their own ships. That way they weren't relying on another corporation for when we started actually taking some losses, which weren't actually too bad most of the time. But there would be corporations that were PvP only, but they needed extra supplies, and I would turn them away and look for the corporations that supplied their own stuff.
Yeah.
I think
Our
it
line
was kind of
spotlight
like
this
that
week goes out to
when
the Eternal Armada.
we joined.
The Eternal
after
Armada
having
started
the
as a
beef
friendship
with,
between IMLG's
what
CEO
was the
Matt
name?
Age and
With
Sour's
Gek,
CEO
yeah.
Puna Blazer.
After that little
The
beef and
alliance
Gek
was first
leaving,
based out of the Torino system. in Lo-
ALI kind of replaced them as one of the main indie corps in TF, and knew just some people in the
Can I tell you something about Gek? One time, Subtle and I were farming up in whatever that top constellation is, Taurus or whatever, near the Cloud Ring Gate. And this guy from Gek, he just shows up in the system. You know, this is like a dead end. Like 3 jumps in, you have to get to it. We're like, what are you doing here, buddy? He's like, I'm just looking at rocks.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he's just sitting in there doing nothing. And all of a sudden, like 60 shush pilots jump in. kill me anyway. Subtle got away. So they were like spies from the get-go because they jumped shush right after.
yeah, too.
Hey, speaking of shush, that was our very first, I guess you could say, TF political incident was with shush, because Keltan fostered a relationship with, who was the leader of shush at the time?
Mr. Pay to Win.
Yeah, Mr. Pay to Win, and Tahini was his right-hand man, and I had Topher at that time who was helping me out, and Topher was a hothead, and I guess Tahini at the time was too. Well, Topher and some guys were like doing a gate camp, and Tahini came in with his wife, and they tried to like steal some loot. So Topher said, and locked him, just wiped his fleet, and then held him there in a pod, which led to the SHH war. Because Keltan actually had our backs, because they wanted us to kick.
I think that actually simplifies things, though. From what I remember of the incident it was a gate camp. Tahini and his squad landed with you, and I believe Silent was our first blue ally at the time.
They were.
And they joined us. A second, okay. They joined us at the gate camp. Dead was killing things, and then before they got in, they just saw a wreck over there, and Tahini went over and looted the wreck, and he got locked up and shot. And I believe the thought process was, well, they're gonna retaliate, so let's just wipe the field with them.
Yeah, that was Topher's mindset, and like I was trying to smooth things over with that pay to win, because at the time that pay to win guy was very just he wanted to run the show. He tried to like tell Keltan what he was going to do, and it was like, Keltan, dude, what the hell? So then I tried talking to him, and then he was being rude to me, which my mindset, if you're rude to me, I'm going to show you respect. So it kind of set me off. So then Keltan had to kick me out of the room.
Yeah, I did do that.
Around the same time, you guys might remember Subtle and Father Malice went to OBS to farm, and they basically said, get out of our farming territory. And so Subtle and Malice told them to get bent and burned their bases.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Remember that?
So they told me that I had to kick certain people out of Dead's corporation. I was like, that's Dead's corporation. What am I doing with that? And they were like, oh well, we want full retribution and we want like a build. What was it, like 1 million? No, how much was it? It was 100 million a ship or something like that. That they
Yeah,
killed.
something
And I was like,
stupid. Something
I was
stupid.
like, all right, well they go over there and can wreck all of you guys. I was like, I'm not doing that. And then he's like, okay, well you have to kick Dead, and you got to kick DUNE too, because they're causing shit too. I was like, you know what? No, fuck you. Let's bring it.
Yeah, so that it led to like we were so far apart that like the war really never happened. Like we did some skirmishes, and I think
65 jumps, if I remember correctly.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Between 65 and 80 jumps.
From there, actually, by the way, the SHH war was like one of the most uneventful wars there ever was. I mean, it was more us, like Dead was fighting up in Syndicate, fighting with Tahini and his group for control of the gate camp that was wildly lucrative at the time. And then it was like TLC up in decline, just like wrecking shop and making videos. They came to Fountain once. They came to Fountain once, tried to take a timer, and they failed. And at that point, actually, is when we developed our friendship with Honk and the Morph guys.
you're also forgetting a very, very key component. This happened because Keltan left for boot camp shortly after the close of the SSH war. Batman had made allies with the PIBC, but
I did.
Well, we're gonna
before I
get to
left.
that. We're actually gonna get to that in a little bit because we're gonna talk about
okay.
we're gonna talk about the decline of TF, but basically what the spiral down, and that's what we're gonna touch on that. But for those of you returning to the game, Kellen and Likander, just so you know, Mr. Paydwin still is involved in the game. He no longer runs the Silent Alliance. That's under Nihilist currently right now, but he still is an executor and main leadership behind the scenes.
Wow.
So he's still around.
Yeah, he's still around. I sent a few messages to him. We talked for like maybe 2 minutes. And basically he's just running the show behind the scenes, but he's been doing a lot of other stuff. But he still has a shit ton of money in the game. So lives up to his name.
Certainly does.
Yeah, from my point of view, like the war with Silent Alliance kind of looked like distant fuck yous with finger pointing, but never opening a window.
Lots of memes. But also when the Silent Alliance started, we were still at war with Happy Bees, we were still at war with Gen Fed, and we were spread out pretty far too. So I think DUNE was down in Gen Fed space, and then Evo was just messing up Delve.
Well, we weren't. Oh yeah, we were at war with the Happy Bees, weren't we? Was that before or after?
Well, I used to lead a whole bunch of rooms down there.
That was before I left.
I think we were always fighting Happy Bees right from the get go.
Yeah, they were
Red
red.
Bee, Reki, and stuff like that. But let's talk about the war of wars, the Fountain War.
Well, I was gonna say that the skirmishes with Happy Bees wasn't like a war. There was no declaration. There was no official thing. It was just skirmishes.
Yeah, it was just fun, right? Like we needed to roam to PvP, and they were next door.
Yeah, mostly because Reki didn't state that it was a war. They just said, okay, let's burn Fountain, and we are going to have some PvP there. They are going to come to our space here in the south. It will be treated like just some random skirmishes. Personally, as a group and as Riful said, we don't like blue donuts, so we started like, okay, we are not friends, so no wars, no big wars, but just PvP.
Yeah, and that's all it ever was for a long time. And then one of our pilots got a hold of that screenshot that that Patone, where Patone was making the Hitler jokes. And and from there, I think things like kind of escalated really quickly.
Galante, wasn't it?
That was
that's right.
Yeah, it was Galante. But yeah, from there, we released it. And then, it got kind of quiet for a while. And then Pantheon had their big war with PHPC where they hired Mercenary Coalition to come in. And in all fairness, Mercenary Coalition fucking carried that war. I mean, you look at videos, Pantheon's like an unorganized mess, like 300 away from fleet. You see MC just like coming in, trucking along, killing all the, the PHPC fleet, all that. So once PHPC started to crumble more and more, Pantheon had reached out to MC to try to adjust the terms of their contract. I had a long conversation with Promised One at length about this topic, but they tried to change the contract to hit TF in Fountain for reasons, and from there they tried to change the contract again and again and again, but essentially MC remained true to the, like, they'll roam Fountain but they won't hit any structures, and from there the Fountain War, as it was, began.
Yeah, speaking of that Fountain War, it was crazy because I'd never had any dealings with this banana dude. And then, like,
banana.
Yeah, well, yeah, whatever. I'm gonna just call him the banana.
Banana.
But he put out like this propaganda tape talking about how Dead, had it out for Pantheon, and dude, honestly, at the time I didn't know who Pantheon was. I thought they were still Happy Bees. So he started talking about me personally, the leader of Dead, and it all stems from a player that he had within his organization called Black Dragon, or as we knew him, Claire, back in SG. This player actually stole real money from me and my corporation, and then summarily left. And we kind of made it known in SG what he did, and so he's kind of.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, he harbored a grudge for that, but so he put out this propaganda. I tried reaching out to Sun Banana, like, hey, we've never had any kind of interaction. What's going on? And he didn't reply to me. He actually had somebody else message me and say, Banana doesn't want to talk to you. So at that point, I was like, all right, fuck this guy. He's just a crazy internet character.
I do have some more insight into that.
I wonder if that was the true initial Where Banana. Do you guys think we got a raw deal, or especially Dead, from the get-go because of bad blood and histories from Second Galaxy? Because I know right from the get-go, Genesis and Pantheon were staunch allies right from the beginning of the game. Do you think any of those interactions from back in that, that game carried over to this game?
100%.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
so Eve Echoes launched. Now this is like discounting SG. Like, I don't want to go back into all that history because that's a whole other podcast. But one of my very first actions in Dead as Diplo was to try to bury the hatchet with Genesis. So I show up in their Discord. Hey guys, what's going on? I know there's some drama. Let's bury it. Let's start anew. Let's be fresh. No problems. Let's just, go on with our lives. We'll leave the past in the past and we'll move forward together. And Mamasaurus sent me a message in all caps that says, "We will not rest until Dead has been eradicated from the game." All caps, super angry, and then banned me. Boom, gone. Yeah. So that was pretty much my interaction with her at the beginning of Eve Echo. So I think it's safe to say we pretty much started off on a bad foot with them.
Yeah, so from my perspective and everything like that, Jin actually wanted me for what is now Terran Federation to come in as a sister alliance to them. And I was like, no, I'm kind of focusing on this fountain area. It looks really good. I think I'm gonna go up here. And then they got really butthurt that I didn't go with them. And then we started growing, and they heard I took in Dead, and they were kind of pissed off.
Wasn't that put to a vote too, ATLE originally, whether we would do our own before the game launched? Would we do our own thing or become part of their? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think we voted on it. And then I brought in DUNE, and then Mamasaurus just went off on me. I guess they didn't like DUNE too much either, and I was like,
well, they had, yeah. If I recall from the history is, DUNE was part of OP Op Force, and there was that whole toxicity row that was going around and talking in stations where Op Force basically went off. I forget exactly what was said to Mamasaurus Rex, but it was like It was bad, and they associated DUNE with that. So they were associating any corporation that was with OpForce to be part of that toxic culture, and they just figured we were just piling on. We had Dead, now we have DUNE, so we were the most toxic now.
Oh, dude,
was DUNE actually in OP4S? I can't remember them, to be honest.
They started in OP4S, but they also have history with Genesis from Second Galaxy.
Yeah, there's a lot of history there.
Yeah, so I brought in Dead and DUNE, and this whole time, Genesis Federation was trying to tell me, like, hey, don't bring these guys in, they're super toxic, like you'll be known as that, alliance with really toxic players. And then I go to their server, or their Discord server, and I've been talking to these guys, and I was like, these guys are really cool, I don't understand where they're getting this from. And then, like, for Likander, he explained to me one guy, I think, I don't remember his name. Because it doesn't matter, it's from a different game anyway. But then they got really pissed and declared war on us. I was like, cool, I'll see you in 120 jumps or whatever it was.
So we had made, if I recall correctly, we made like every attempt to stay the fuck away from Genesis. Like, we went to Fountain, like, especially like Dead. Dead had options to like just jump right into the war, and we had made a very conscious effort to like let those bygones be bygones. Like, we didn't join OpForce, like they courted us heavily. It actually came down to a vote in our channel, and it was like the deciding vote was mine to go to Terran Fed instead of OpForce, just because like we really needed to, break that cycle of vitriol, because it was pretty deep. Like, a lot of the drama, a lot of the stuff in Eve Echoes is like child's play compared to a lot of the stuff that went on in SG.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. So we were. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Yeah. So we were just trying to make every effort we could to, avoid those same pitfalls that had caused so much vitriol in the past.
So, to circle back, because I didn't get a chance to interject, the caveat onto the whole, like, allegations of toxicity, like, it was from, like, one or two players that just, they like to egg things on and talk a lot of trash. But I got pulled into it and labeled toxic and persona non grata, blacklisted, whatever, just for being the CEO, because you guys in this room can attest, and anybody that's, like, interacted with me, especially in leadership, that I was always the calm, cool, collected, like, hey guys, let's work together. Let's, not use curse words. Let's be polite. So I always found it fascinating how I was like, the Grim Reaper.
Hey, somehow you got put, like, I thought it was funny, and going on record, everyone knows I was never part of leadership. I did do, I helped recruiting for ATLE, but I was never in any of the leaderships. But I thought it was hysterical that Keltan was, we had a high council, but like Keltan was the, top of the pyramid, yet he was kind of like in the background, and you were like the face of TF, and like everyone that just threw shit, it just landed on your foot. You know what I mean?
To be fair, I was very active, like extremely active in the game at that time, and Keltan was very busy prepping for his boot. So he let a lot of decisions, like he was always the final, like the trigger puller. But like as far as planning and stuff, I did a lot of that.
Yeah, he did.
Also, I would say that a lot of that, like Likander being made the face of Terran Federation for a while, was really kind of a brilliant play from, Genesis propaganda campaign, because it was never like Dead. It was never Terran Federation. It was Terran Federation and Dead. Dead got singled out. It doesn't matter. Like even now, with the current war going on Pantheon, you hear it in the firesides. It's like
I was gonna say you guys are. It's like No and Dead, but it's like you guys are part of No. It's the same way I do with like Honk and Silent Federation, where it's like
we're always gonna be.
You're too big. Yeah, you're too big to be just kind of like in the background. It's, you always have that foot forward.
Yeah, it's hard to know, honestly. Like, the conspiracy theories Banana had or has about Likander were so.
I was starting to put myself.
It's almost like hard to believe that he was even doing it just for propaganda. I think he just
He believed his own.
He believed his own thing. I mean, it was nuts. Like, he was saying things like Likander was planning this from the very beginning to take down Pantheon. Like, he was forcefully trying to take over TF ever since like Dead joined and all this stuff. Like, it was crazy.
I remember one of the conspiracy theories was because I know we set PIBC blue for some reason. I don't remember the reason, but all of a sudden, we must support bots because we have blue status with these people now, and now it was a great, everyone was fighting bots, and we are now in support of that.
I remember the bot wars.
Yeah. So now that we're like back to that, I can tell you like, even the Mercenary Coalition kind of bought into that because like initially when they started raiding in Fountain Space, like I reached out to them immediately. I lit them the fuck up. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Why are you guys here? Are you guys on contract? Yada, 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 trying to figure out what's going on. And essentially they said, well, you guys are supporting PIBC, so we're here to ruin your day. And I was like, we've never been down there to support PIBC. They're like, you were in Fleet. You were in this big old battle that we just had over this station. It's like, show me one TF kill mail and, I'll drop it all. And,
honestly, that's one of my biggest regrets is not trying harder to talk Batman into supporting our allies. Because PIBC, before the allegations of botting, because there's actually never real proof.
No, I think there was pretty substantial proof.
I guess I never saw it. But
yeah.
Before that whole like botting thing, they were allies, and instead of going down to help them during their war, Batman just kind of, abandoned them. And honestly, I really think the Fountain Wars never would have happened had we gone down there.
If we'd gone down there, I would bet dollars to donuts that Genesis would have got involved.
Yeah,
probably.
Too.
They were looking for any excuse. That's why we kind of. We honestly, I hate to say this, we minded our P's and Q's just because they outnumbered the hell out of us. Like they had at that time, 20, 30 alliances.
Yep.
For the TF war?
No.
Or I'm sorry, for the Fountain War?
No, this is the reason why we never kind of.
When I left, they had like 12 alliances already.
What I'm saying is that the whole reason why we never got involved in anything that would have pulled Genesis against us.
Yeah, they were too far away. Like, I think we had a few battles against them before I left where we were in support of another alliance just so we could go down there and like see what they could bring. I forgot who we supported. I know Trimark was there.
You're talking about the Op Force Russians.
That's what it was.
Red One or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then we had all of the blue on blue there.
Yeah, there was some bad there, and then the Russians came to us, I think.
Yeah, and I was like I think the only ones who was kind of in contact with them because I knew them from the OP4S days. And so for some reason I got put in charge for the SRP of the blue on blue. So
yeah.
That was me. I had no clue what to do, and I just got sent a huge contract to give people who got damage from that. It was super weird.
Welcome to Diplo life. It's great.
It's fantastic. You play through Discord.
Yeah, half of the people didn't even respond to me at first. It was so weird because I was on TF for like I think half a week at that point. And so my AL wasn't even done with moving in, so we had basically nobody from AL except for me going there.
Now here's the $1,000 question here. Were you still flying Ruptures at that time?
No, I actually was an indie pilot when I joined AL and TF.
The TF Ruppy Doctrine actually came in kind of late into the Fountain Wars.
Mm-hmm. At that point, when people know me with the Ruptures, I actually took the TF Doctrine and just carried it to BZ and just tested it out because I had them left over and didn't know what to do with them. And then there was like a 7-man Inti Swarm, which just died. I was snapped. I was just taking them apart and very shit. So, but I saw how great that thing was, and then I just started playing them. And got more.
I will say this. I think I remember most fondly some of our doctrines, such as the Catalyst Destroyer doctrine. I personally loved having battles with our, having these little brawls outside of Serpentis Prime, trying to see who had the best fit, doctrine Destroyer. And then we moved. Then we had the SFI, or we had the Stabber, and we also was it towards the end of the Stabber doctrine we switched over to the VNI doctrine, or was before that?
Let me tell you about the Vexers. All right. So everybody wanted to stay with Stabbers, everyone, and then there was no we.
I remember. You remember our main FC at the time. I think this was also before Keltan left, but we're gonna get to you leaving shortly, Keltan.
Yeah,
I remember our main FC at the time was Lord Dragon, and I remember having arguments with him deep into the night. Basically, I'm like, no, drones are the way to go, and I was always a huge supporter of drones, and he's like, oh, you never use drones in battles. You're never gonna use them in large fleet battles, and and we did what we did. Continue.
I know that we once had a battle where we went to Cloudwing or something like that, and we had a huge Vexer fleet. That's something I definitely remember.
I think we started using drones after Shush came in with Vexers and attacked the Batcave. Right?
Oh, go ahead. You can finish it.
I think that's what it was, and then it was so annoying because they made a ton of lag, and you had to basically chase them around while their drones just fought the Citadel. It was a...
So at the time, I would say maybe 2 or 3 weeks before I got appointed Sky Marshal, by we I mean Dead, we sat down and we crunched the numbers hard. It was like we found out that it took something like 20 Vexers to actually apply damage to a fully fit Guardian if they had a single Logi canceled out, something like 20 to 25 Stabber fleet issues. So we immediately started looking at options. Okay, well, how do we get around this bubble? Because it's meta. We saw the meta starting to pop up from SHH videos, fighting against Golden Horde, wild numbers. So we hadn't quite adopted Guardians at that point, which we quickly moved into. But as that was going on, we were behind the scenes, just number crunching everything. And the only logic that we could find, the only counter we could find to Guardians was just getting inside the bubble. We need to get inside the bubble. So either we need to do a brawler fleet or we need to use drones. And I didn't really want to mess around with the brawler fleet because SHH was playing around with it at the time. So we came up with this Vexer doctrine, and we tried so hard to sell it, and no one was biting. Lord Dragon wasn't having it. Batman wasn't having it. This is the doctrine. We're going SFIs, and I think we're armor SFIs. It was right. It was fucking.
Yeah, it was weird because I still had my Doctrine stuff from OP4S, which was SFIs, but we had a shield tank, so I still rolled with shields.
So, as soon as I got appointed to the Sky Marshal position after Keltan had left, the very first thing I did was I scrapped the Stabbers. I was like, these are gone. We're going Vexers, and we need to go all in. And while we were prepping for that, everybody was still SFI at the time. Then SHH had come into our territory with the Vexers and just really reinforced how absolutely brutal they were in the type of meta fleet combat.
Yeah, I was there for the fight at the Batcave because I was actually running Logi, but then we were still experimenting with hurricanes, I think, at the time, and they were just so slow. And Silent had what are those called? The fucking micro warp drives, and they would just catch up to them, and that was what hurt us the most. Was they could just catch us and then run away,
Well, I think we recorded that video. I don't know if we ever publicly released it, but the issue with the Hurricanes in that fight wasn't necessarily their speed. It was that people just kept disconnecting, and then they would fall out of bubble, and then they were easy pickings from there.
Yeah, that's true.
So let me just interject. So those of you listening right now, this is a year plus removed from the launch of the game, and we are still, to this day, having massive lag, disconnects, black screens, and such. You've seen my rants in other videos about this, and we started throwing rocks at the developers till they came forward with the message about it. But so it's actually, let's get back into it. There's one question I do want to ask. Likander, are you back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, this was, I believe, towards the just beginning of the massive Fountain War. This is when Keltan was leaving to go to boot camp. Keltan, what was the not theory but logic, but like what cultivated your decision on who you left charge? Like between Batman and Likander. I think a lot of people would like to know that.
Yeah, me and Keltan discussed this at length, and it was for a reason. It was so that TF didn't fracture.
Yeah.
So
it was.
Go ahead, bud.
No, you already started.
No, go ahead.
So there was. It took me a while to eventually decide on something, and I went over and I talked to everyone about it. Like, hey, I'm looking for someone to take over while I'm gone. A lot of the CEOs were like, no, I don't want to do it. I can't handle that much extra load. Now, I think I was talking to Likander at the time, and he was like, I'll do it, but that's a lot of extra work. And then another factor was, do we let another corporation at the time, because I was still, I'm ATLE, so do we let another corporation take over as an executor? And we were like, maybe not. So, and it came down to who was at the time head FC, and that was Batman. I think it was Batman, right? He was doing.
It was.
I think so. He took over from Dragon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was head FC for like 2 weeks before you left, I believe.
Yeah, because I remember Dragon before that was all bent out of shape that he wasn't made Sky Marshal.
Well,
yeah, and then it.
I have to clarify this point for everybody listening. He was the Sky Marshal, which was the head FC, and I'm kind of air quoting right now, but he actually didn't lead a whole lot of fleets. I'm talking about Lord Dragon. He led like minimal fleets.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just little raids.
Yeah. All the big interactions, like the big fleet battles, was Batman and myself. And then Topher as well, sometimes.
Topher did a lot.
I think also Endy Fire from DUNE was also one of the head FCs too, wasn't he? I know there was someone from DUNE that was...
once in a while. No, he did shot calling for us.
Oh, that's all right.
Our FC roster was deep.
Yeah, we had a lot of reserves. I was one of the reserve ones, which I got thrown in every now and then.
I always got a headshot.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Likander, what was your take on me choosing someone?
So if you remember when you and I sat down and discussed it in depth, the main concern was if you were to make me the executor, it would piss off ATLE, the founding corp, and Batman at the time. He would have taken your corp and pulled out. So I said, hey, how about this? I'll step back, I'll advise him, and because I really don't care. Like, I don't have to be, the whole, I'm the president of the world. I don't give a shit. So, I don't have an ego like that, so I don't care. And that's why I was like, yeah, make Batman the executor, and then I'll kind of give him examples, and I'll take a lot off his plate so he's not doing it all. So, which he kind of got a little headstrong at times, because he did have an ego, and you know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much what led to that, because we didn't want TF to fracture, because if Dead would have been made the executor core, it would have fractured, and then it would have pulled Genesis in against TF, because at that time they were going hard on the propaganda.
Dude, it was, at the time they were doing like a weekly podcast at the time. Every week it was Shit Talking Dead. They were releasing like a little newsletter. Oh yeah, he was trash talking Dead every week, and then they released a newsletter that trash talked Dead every week.
I still say that guy has a very punchable face.
Do you think if you took over Likander, people would have thought we'd be rebranding instead of Terran Federation just as Dead, period?
Oh, absolutely. The way that the propaganda wheel was spinning, even though nobody from Dead would have seen it like that, that's exactly how it would have been propaganded.
Yeah, it was a tough decision. It really was. It took a while.
I know we had, and no one else actually knows this, and I'll let you know, Keltan. A few of the ATLE pilots found out before you let us know about you leaving the boot camp, before you actually made the thing. And some of us were, it was, I think, me and Blade specifically, were like, well, there goes that shit. Like, we were like, well, if Keltan's not here, well, which options should we drop? We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if Terran Federation was going to fall apart or what was going to happen. So we were making backup plans on backup plans, and I remember saying to Blade at the time, like, nah, man, let's see what happens. And I said, worst case scenario, we have some fun, and if we bail, we bail. But I figured I'd just put that out there.
Yeah, there was a few guys I talked to, because again, we're from Second Galaxy, and at this point, I've known a lot of the people for, what, a year and a half at that point? And so I got pretty close, and I would talk to them, and I would help them, or they would help me, like, stay focused. So I told a few guys in ATLE that I was leaving before I even announced it to anyone else.
Now, during the height of the Fountain War, when we were like full on in it, when all the changes were in place and Keltan left and the new regime took over, how did everyone deal with the war itself, the attack, the defense, the constant propaganda? True, I know this is definitely in your wheelhouse, but the propaganda that we spun out, as well as the propaganda coming back to us, one of which is the infamous, which is still referred to this day, and I hate to do this to you, but the whole copy pasta. I'm going to be frank with you. You guys are an indie alliance. You have a handful of PvP pilots and a semi-decent FC. You can't sustain a war. After the first 2 weeks, your indie guys are going to be begging to call a ceasefire because they won't be able to do what they enjoy, sitting idly and shooting space rocks. We don't want that, and I don't think you do either.
Hold on, David, in my defense.
Even I heard about this.
They did exactly what I thought they were going to do in the exact time frame that I said it. To the day. However, my gross miscalculation was the fact that they were just going to team up with Pantheon, and then Genesis behind the scenes, Genesis was supplying them with ships and ISK. And then also coming and raiding us at opportunistic times when we were like fighting citadels and shit. So we were just getting gangbanged like crazy.
I think that's jumping a little too far forward into the war. We haven't really discussed the early stages of the war, particularly like Weird Bob's rise to prominence. Rise to prominence.
Here comes the ego.
No,
Bob, it's your turn. It's your time to shine, Bob.
Oh, my time? Oh.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, the whole thing really started with one of our court members, Fallen Angel. Like, he was the guy I was following most of the time, and me and him were good buddies. And we got bored one day because we were using our Daredevils and stuff like that, and we were losing like $1 billion ships at the time, and that really got to us. And he just like, you know what? I'm gonna get an Atron too. Let's get both of us do it, and let's just make it cheap and see what we can do. So it's just us two, and we go out there and we kill. I think our first, just us two alone, killed 2.5 billion in mining ships and different other ships before we died. And that just started like a cascade, and it started at 3, then 5. The next thing you know is 15, then 30. And
at some point, you introduced Evo frigates.
Yeah,
like the Maulers.
Yep.
I think.
And it just started compounding, and like the whole concept was to be as cheap as possible and do as much damage as possible, and just because that way people will lose the instinct of self-preservation.
Yeah, from his roams, we essentially spawned our entire like FC cadet program. Like that was one of the stepstones. So with our cadet program, we would like record our battles and we would talk about them in a cadet channel, and then we would discuss tactics and whatnot. You know, we had all of our cadets running like backup FCs, because at the time, you know, you could only have 10 in a fleet, so we had like dozens and dozens of fleets going all the time. So, you know, they were kind of running that junior FC role, and then once they were ready to step up, we had them run like several of those death frig roams. And
yeah, one of the great thing about the death frig roams about the time was you find out real quickly who can lead a squad, because they can at least press the buttons and everything that they were supposed to.
Well,
Yeah,
it was
I think
also
I got to do the like press the button rolls quite often because I never had a mic, but I could press a button.
yeah, it really became our training grounds for our pilots even, because I don't know, we didn't have a whole lot of like major engagements with Pantheon early on. Like there was nothing, and anytime that like we did fleet up, it was like mostly a standoff, because they wouldn't engage unless it was like 2-to-1 odds, which like practically never happened early on in the war. So we were trying to generate these fights, and we couldn't get them. So, you know, Weird Bob's Death Frig Room really like reinvigorated and like redefined our offense in that war, because we never really wanted that territory down in Delve. We had citadels queued up ready to get dropped, but you know, we couldn't hold it. We were 4 alliances, we couldn't hold that territory. So the only offense that we really had was just sending, you know, roam after roam after roam, and it was so effective that it became our like standard operating procedure, that whenever they threw, you know, any attack at us, if they come into Fountain, like we're instinctively sending back at least a minimum of a death frig roam. Like no attack went unanswered.
Yeah, during that time, burnout was a real thing, and it was mostly because at that time they didn't have any outposts down. They had nothing, and we had so many outposts to defend that our guys were getting burnt out from defending when they didn't have anything for us to attack. And it was a pretty solid strategy on their part, honestly.
Basically the same thing Jen repeated in the CC war.
Yeah, I remember getting the council together. This was about mid-war, and Batman was there, and like it just, I kept asking the CEOs to start basically unanchoring their structures so we could actually put the fight to them and give our pilots a little bit of a rest. But nobody wanted to do that. Nobody listened to me, and I kind of think that had they done that, it would have prevented a lot of the burnout and a lot of the CEOs being at each other's throats.
I'm not sure that burnout was really that big of an issue.
Ask the line pilots.
Okay, Ziklon, was burnout really a big deal for you?
I mean, it depends. At some point, people really didn't. We had one of the highest attendances with Dad doing the CTAs at first, but at some point, only like a quarter of AL showed up.
Yeah, I think
all that.
I remember a bunch of pilots not showing up, and they near the end of the war they were getting burned out. But that was because, you know, we would show up in our fleets not enough to hold the ground, and all of a sudden, you know, they're showing up in hurricanes and tornadoes and stuff that would just we were just being. It was just like a mismatch at that point, I felt.
So I could only.
And plus, the propaganda of them, you know, blowing up some of our citadels. Like I remember the propaganda about that one DUNE citadel being blown up, and then one of their line pilots, who was never part of Discord or anything, like, just dropped another citadel or outpost the day after, and that shit got blown up.
Yep.
I'd like to talk about that battle. That whole story arc is probably like the battle for the Spice Factory is probably one of the greatest stories. Or not, I'm sorry, not the Spice Factory.
Yeah, the Spice Factory.
Well, I'm thinking of another one. But Spice Factory happened a day after I went on vacation. At the time, I was playing like honestly, like 12, 16. I was like at work calling fleets and stuff. Height of COVID, and we were getting small business loans. There was just no business. So I was just sitting in the office doing nothing. But yeah, we had this huge, elaborate defense set up. It was beautiful. It was at the end of a pipe, and we had Mercenary Coalition there. We had Honk coming in. We had Boop. We had Fireflies coming down. You know, we had set this trap where each time they jumped through the gate, they would just get nuked until they jumped through. And then as they jumped to the next gate, we had another fleet. So it was like Mercenary Coalition first stage. Then it was like Honk and Fireflies next stage. And then behind that was going to be like the TF guys at the third gate. So they would keep jumping. They would keep losing. And as they got into system, the whole fleet, the whole like coalition fleet, if you will, would jump in behind them and just crush them. There's nowhere to go. We hold the gate. It's at the end of a pipe, right? Like that was the initial
pre-bubbles, or is this at the advent of bubbles?
There were bubbles.
There were bubbles.
I remember because I was a main bubble pilot. And was this also the fight where Fireflies showed up? And I remember there was a fight where Fireflies showed up and Mercenary Coalition just lit them all up.
Okay, so that was before. So let's jump to that real quick. So what happened there?
That was a fight.
Yeah, that was it. No, what happened is after they so after that whole you're an indie core thing, and we accused them of basically helping Happy Bees attack our citadels. We went and attacked BRA's citadel in Aquarius Coalition. Yeah, and so we were defending, and then we were doing like a 12-hour, not a 12-hour, but like an all-day, like, you know, people were looping in for the CTA doing a bubble camp to cover the borders, and when they no-showed, we decided to push them instead. And we had MC on hand, we had Fireflies on hand, so we just kind of pushed them all over, and then,
So I can elaborate on that because I actually FC'd that. So I'm actually really proud of myself for that particular battle because I was controlling 3 separate fleets from 3 separate locations in space at the same time, and made us all coordinate at the same time to engage. I think it was the Trimarch fleet at the time, or the Aquarius Coalition fleet, and we destroyed them to a ship. Like nobody survived. And then we went and hit the Citadel. The only problem was MC did not have FF blued, and they wiped the FF fleet. And FF jumped like 60 jumps to come help us?
Yeah, I mean, they were in trainer ships too. Like, it wasn't even a huge monetary loss, but they were just pissed about the fact it happened.
After that, they told us that they would never come help us again. And Zealot had to speak.
So
somebody spoke it over.
No, they said, so finally I got them to commit to coming back, but what happened is, at that point, Pew left Shush and joined MC. And so Tahini was coming to help defend the spice factory, and that caused a diplomatic massacre. Basically, all of our allies to the north said they wouldn't come because Tahini was here, except for Honk, who had to debate it.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Real talk, though, Honk are some real ones. Like,
they're the best.
Everybody else bounced, but Honk stayed.
Yeah.
Continue.
I've always been Honk in my heart. Terran Federation, but I always had a special place in my heart for Honk.
When remember when we all claimed our areas in Fountain? We had a group of Honk guys that was living in Dead's area, and like we just let them be. Like we'd honk, they'd honk at us, and then we'd fly by.
Yeah.
Was that the same system that they're always fighting for now? YRNJ?
No, it was in Chimera.
Oh, okay, okay.
YRNJ, I think, was UNFS at the time.
Yeah, it was.
Like I said, I still stand by my thing is we kick them out. We'll get to we're gonna get to them shortly.
So
that
thing. To look back to that particular fight, when we attacked that Citadel, which honestly, I was just trying to generate a fight, but that was probably one of my biggest follies, because that actually pulled Aquarius into the war fully. And then we just started getting teamed up on.
Well, I think even before that, like we caught that false trajectory roam hitting our station in Fountain, and I think that's when you sent the infamous copy pasta.
It is.
And then we sent the attacks afterwards.
Yeah,
which pulled them into the war.
It turns out, I mean, this is speculation, but J Factor ended up joining Pantheon very soon after that. So, I mean, I think the
Oh,
teams
yeah,
were
dude.
closely knit before then.
Oh, they
And after
totally...
that, I do have to salute this, and even though we were enemies at the time, it was a masterful move. We had basically Mercenary Coalition crashing on our couch in Fountain. We gave them a spot to hang out with, rat with, and do that, so they would help us out. And then Genesis turned around and said, they had backdoor conversations with Mercenary Coalition and gave them like all of Period Basin. Their whole region, like, come down here, and and that's how we lost that center defense.
So that goes back into since the start of EE, Genesis has always been behind the scenes, maneuvering people, maneuvering alliances against TF, and only against TF because of Dead, because they had that long-standing grudge from SG.
There's probably some DUNE involved in that as well. They were no fans of DUNE.
Yeah, and Sin too. They didn't like Sin.
Yeah.
But they did a lot of backdoor dealings that, key in point, the MC deal. I mean, when I actually confronted Mom about it was the first time I've ever talked to her. And she was like, "What are you talking about? It's their ancestral home," like being all sweet. And I'm like, I know what you're up to.
Yeah. So a little bit of like, I don't know, behind the scenes with that is like when we were at war with Pantheon before QC had got involved. This was like right after. This is the story arc I really wanted to talk about, was when Pantheon had stolen our structure from our Chinese friends in BHF, right?
Oh yeah.
And that shit, like the hauler disappeared. Nobody knew where it was. We had like these huge speculations. But yeah, we organized this mass fleet after listening to one of their firesides, where they said they were going to plant it back in. And we had, our defense fleet. We had an offense fleet to try to draw the fight in Delve. And then they like showed up, comms light up. I'm at work, like taking 20 bathroom breaks to, try to coordinate these fleets. And so we had like our mass fleet was in Delve. They logged in the Bestower, which was still in Fountain space. So we're like scrambling to get our guys back. Our defense fleet is like no match for what they have on grid, which was led by UNFS jet vent at the time for our defense fleet. And they started moving it, and we're watching the chat. They're in this system. They're like, they're in this system. Oh my God, they planted it. 15 minutes or whatever the timer was at the time. And so we frantically call for our offense fleet to return home. That was being led by System Error at the time.
System.
Yeah, so he's zipping back as fast as he can get his guys there. The timer is counting down. It's like 10 minutes. 7 minutes, 6 minutes. Like System Error is still, 5 jumps away from our defense fleet, where they were going to meet up and jump into system and just like try to stop it. So our fleets get on grid. We're on the other side of the gate. We're outnumbered like 2-1, and we're outgunned because I think there were QC ships running battle cruisers at the time. Like they were pretty heavy into, like, that's what they flew. They flew Bling. So we're outnumbered, we're outgunned. The timer's ticking down 5 minutes, 4:30.
3 minutes.
3 minutes, and then like System Error, like I'm like DMing System Error from work, and he's like, "Dude, we can't jump this. We're not gonna win this fight. We're outnumbered, we're outgunned. It's just not gonna happen." I was like, "Dude, you gotta get in there." I was like, "I don't care if we wipe the whole fleet. We gotta stop that from getting planted."
So, Ziklon, I'm gonna interject right here. Do you remember what we did for that? We started sending suicide interceptors to pause the timer.
We were stalling the timer any way that we could, which is trash at the time. So our main fleet jumps. I don't remember the numbers. I got a recording of the video from Gengar. Nice guy, by the way. But yeah, we're outnumbered like almost 2-1, and we're outgunned. So we jump through the gate, and our fleet starts trashing them on gate, but we can't get to where the Citadel is being planted because it's just too wild of a fight. Like we can't get disengaged to go do it. And Immortal's Rage, now CEO of Dead, goes absolute hero mode, like multi-boxing I think 3 or 4 hurricanes, jumps on the grid, and there's like 40 guys on grid. He's like max range. He's like stalling the timer the best he can. He's like kiting like this fleet that's coming after like him and his multi-boxes. Our main fleet gets disengaged, jumps on grid, big fight ensues, and like the station, like we kill the station with, I don't know, like two minutes left on the thing, like right to the wire. Beautiful. Pantheon had a great time with it. We had a great time with it. And I personally think that's like the greatest story arc in all of Eve Echoes. But after that, I had talked to Mamasaurus, who was still on her anti-bot rage, I shouldn't say rage, the crusade, the anti-bot crusade. And, we had like struck up a conversation, and she had actually offered to go back to neutral with TF.
I heard about this.
I passed it up the totem pole. We had talked about it in leadership chat for a little bit, and we were like, all right, let's do it. Messaged her back, and she ghosted me.
Oof.
That's the end of that story.
Hey guys, I gotta go. I just arrived on set. I gotta go film. So if you have any questions, just like private message me, and I'll answer them as best I can. But I can't be on voice set.
All right, no problem. Appreciate you stopping by, Likander. I know Tru Zealot will fill me in, because we're going to talk about, basically now we're going to wrap it up about the downward spiral of what happened to TF and the day of the break.
So I'm really not that equipped for this conversation.
That's a me question.
Well, that's like, yeah, like a Likander and a Boris question, because I know they were dealing with a lot of the fallout for that. Like, I was on vacation. I went on vacation the day before the Spice Factory fight, and then when I came back, TF was gone.
Yeah, I was there. I can speak because I know Likander and I have spoken on this part and analyzed this multiple times. Is basically what happened, because I remember the day TF actually broke. Batman got paranoid about the stuff that was going on with Jet Bent and UNFSS, thinking that they were trying to turn Dead and DUNE against him. There was a huge blow up in leadership chat. Now, again, I wasn't part of leadership chat, but I remembered after seeing all this, and then Batman's infamous post in the ATLE Discord saying that, we're just going to break apart and basically take his ball and go home. I remember myself and you, Likander, and I forget, there was someone else. We were behind the scenes trying to talk to everyone, trying to keep everything together with duct tape and string, just trying to keep what we loved together. But at the end of the day was, Evo won the ATLE, and I forget who else broke off and left TF and went their own way.
To shed some light on that, now that it's an adequate amount of time has passed, it was never Jet Bent. What it was do you remember Jet Bent's second, the E-Vet? He was the older guy.
What was his name? He had
He was this indie guy.
Yeah, I know. I played a lot of him. I forgot the name. Wait a sec.
He when UNSF first joined, he tried to get all the indie guys together and basically form a really, really good tight-knit industrial side for TF. And Batman kind of slapped his pee-pee, and then from that moment on, he had a grudge against Batman. So the entire time that UNSF was in TF, he was whispering into Jet Bent's ear, giving him basically advice that was draining his relationship with Batman. And
do you mean Luminarius Wax, or do you mean
Shadow? Yep. That's him, yeah. Which, I only ever had good dealings. He seemed on the up and up until he did try and convince me to leave TF. And at that point I was like, oh, fuck. I see what's going on here. Because, and you guys can attest this, I didn't like the backroom shady dealings, going behind people's back, the whole spy stuff. I was very upfront and very transparent with everything that I did. And, that's why my spy division, I left to, a certain player. I'm not going to blow his cover, but I didn't want any part of that, because that's, one, I'm not good at it. Two, I don't like it. But so once I found out that it was him that was kind of leading the charge against Batman, at that point it was already too late because Batman and Jetbet blew up in leadership chat against each other, and at that point there was no reconciliation. I tried, you tried, we all tried so hard, but it ended up making Jetbet quit the game, and then the Luminaris Rex took charge briefly of UNSF, and at that point it's when I was going to take over, but then Pantheon, Genesis, and the Curious Coalition basically gave Boris the ultimatum of, if you do that, then the war continues. And they started telling Boris like all this vile stuff, but they were never giving him any evidence.
Yeah.
Can I?
So then, go ahead.
Sorry,
Yeah, that's like the same stuff that we had here. Like the lower officers got in AL. The line members didn't even know about anything going on yet. We just were happily waiting. We just, even us officers, not the directors, the lower ranking officers. I was like PvE or a PvP/PvE officer at that time. We only knew, okay, something is cooking, and that we only got told something is cooking. We might have to have a talk at some time. Then when that talk came, it was, okay, it doesn't look too good with TF. We might have to reconsider options for later.
Yeah, because remember... Sorry, go ahead, Ziklon.
Sorry, Boris, I gotta get off here, guys. If you have a question, just PM me. The very last thing I'm gonna say is, it was at this point that we found out that the ATLS, or as I like to call them, the Blue Falcon Buddy Fuckers, were spying on us for Pantheon the entire time for Sun Banana. That's what we found out, the Allure and Chevron. All right, gotta go, guys.
Thank you for coming, Likander. Have a great shoot.
Thank you.
So there was like one talk about it's something is cooking. This was pre-Christmas. Then I think on the 25th or 26th, it was like another meeting. Okay, we have to consider options. We gotta do a vote if we stay or go down, or if we leave now and might go with ATLE and EVO. And most of us voted for staying and hoping to see how that goes with Phoenix, how it was called, with the rebuilding, and it obviously didn't work out well. So then we decided, with another vote, we decided to leave as well after some time. This was like, I think the 1st or the 2nd, and we were like pretty late with leave. AL had already become the Executioner Corp of Tier 4 at that point, because just so many corps had left already.
So I kind of want to circle back to something, since we're talking about the like the end of the war. I want to circle back to the beginning of the war for just a moment. I did make some headways into the Pantheon. It was actually just like the Goon Swarm Discord at the time. And I opened up a Diplo channel. You know, I was chatting up Chillmatica at the very beginning of the war. I was talking about, you know, it was just great for content. I was like, your pilots are loving it, our pilots are loving it. You know, we're Starship Troopers, you guys are bugs, the memes are awesome. You know, our pilots are just loving all the content. But if stuff starts to get too hot, let me know and we'll call a ceasefire, because we don't want your territory. Chillmatica was like, awesome, let me ping Sun Banana. He pinged Sun Banana, and that was the last thing I ever saw in that Discord. Banned immediately after.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you'd like to continue with the end.
Because it didn't go with the narrative.
Yeah.
You know, everything that led up to the end was we had the infamous ceasefire, and then they didn't cease fire. It was like Pantheon is ceasefire. It's like, oh, we're not going to hit your structures, but they backdoored agreements with Trimark and the Curious Coalition. They came in and hit the structures, and the Pantheon fleet followed behind them just to hit pilots that were out and about.
No, I think
it was.
No, that was actually J Factor kind of came out with that agreement, and then Banana acted like he'd never heard of it. But then if you look at the Reddit post, which J-Factor deleted afterwards, but it's still, findable, he clearly says QC and Pantheon will do this. And then they said, oh, well, that is placing that Citadel there was an aggressive move because it's so close to Delve. And then that was their excuse for doing it. But there was some additional drama there because you guys remember some people speculated that was put down on purpose with the intent of being destroyed, as like a way to make more drama unfold in TF, which is what it certainly did.
Well, we'll say that we did have our fair share of drama, fun fights, legendary things such as the infamous station steal from Pantheon, for them only to drop it in the center of our region. And they were like, oh yeah, you guys are blowing up the Citadel, it's Pantheon Citadel, but technically it's a Terran Federation Citadel that you guys just blew up.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It was like a win for both sides. It was just a great storyline. Everybody had fun. Everybody won some, everybody lost some. Everybody felt like they won in the end. So, that was ultimately probably the best outcome for content in general in a game.
So at the end, when Batman, he left, I know the pieces were on the floor. You guys tried to get it to working together with Retribution Alliance, and then there were deals with EA and Pantheon, and a lot of backstabbing and everything. I wasn't there for that part. Yeah, I know all that happened.
I can talk about this a little bit.
Oh, actually, before it all went down completely down the drain, there was one last glorious battle. I remember, I think it was Blab. It was mainly covered. It was a Blab fleet jumping in all infection battleships. They were terrorizing Fountain the whole time with their faction fleet, and then we were on standby with 40 Wappies. And this is where I actually got my first Rupture kill as well. It was we killed 11 faction battleships there without insurance, I think.
Oh, it was CVRT. That's right, led by Babes.
Covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing that really exacerbated the drama that was happening at the end of TF there, because Pantheon put out that contest for billions of ISK for kills in Fountain. And so they were bringing those faction battleships and stuff every day. So while leadership was kind of struggling to pick up the pieces of what was going on, they were basically in Fountain constantly, and we were having trouble even organizing a defense. And the line members, I remember in Discord are just saying what is going on, are we going to respond to this? We're losing ISK constantly.
Yeah, and then we had this 40-man or 30-man fleet. We just took them apart. I remember how everybody said, don't kill the Nightmare first, because then we would have been taken apart.
Well, I have nothing but fond memories of Terran Federation. It will always have a place in my heart. And before anything else, I am always Terran Federation. And we're going to close this out with where you guys are at today in the game. If you still play, and which side you're fighting for and where you're at now. I'm just going to go around. Boris, you go ahead first.
Yep, so after TF fell, I joined EA because we were doing a lot of peace talks with them, and they seemed like, chill enough guys. That did not last long, because soon after, Dead and DUNE and stuff joined CC and started attacking GenFed, and they were on the opposite side of me, basically. So I was like, screw this, I can't fight DUNE. And so I switched to what's the core with AL in it now? The Alliance. I'm sorry, the OG. I switched to OG.
OG.
Yep. Stayed in there for a little bit, and then took a break, and now I'm in Honk. Basically, I just dedicate my time to messing with Pantheon in Fountain because I think it's fun.
David, why don't you go next?
I'm sure you've seen some of us recently, but after the Terran Federation fall, we joined Mercenary Coalition for a bit. And after that, we ended up leaving and creating our own Mercenary Alliance, the 6th Seal. And we're just always have a special spot in our heart for fucking up Pantheon in their home. And recently Gen Fed. Apparently they like to think we are no rejects. But yeah, we're still fighting strong and growing. Ziklon's one of us, and Weird Bob leads our fleets every now and again for fun. And just generating content. TF War was probably one of our absolute favorites, and we all still remember it.
All right, since we're bringing up No, we're going to go to Tru and then Ziklon.
Who goes first?
Oh, I never left Terran Fed. I'm still in Terran Fed. I make memes. You know, plot the demise, the bugs. It's probably my in-game mission now. No. I just kind of hang around the peripherals. I don't play. I dabble. I liquidated all my TF stockpiles, distributed them to no pilots who needed pre-stage stuff inside Fountain, and you know, make the occasional meme.
Ziklon, where are you at today?
After TF, I went with AL, of course, since I was with them even before TF. And then, after a lot of time in OG, after the CC war, it just got too blue for me, even though it wasn't really blue. And of course, I kind of picked up the tradition. I kind of, even though it wasn't as good as Zealot, I kind of memed on them as well during these Southern wars. But the big battles got too boring for me. I got headshotted there as well. At least it felt like this, because when you got on grid, just instant blab on me. But it got too blue, so I joined PHPC, left AL on good terms, and now I'm with David and Goodspace killing people for money.
Hell yeah.
All right. Penguin, where are you still with TLC?
Yes, I'm still playing. I actually, after Terran fell, I left the game because, well, I burned it off from all the skirmishes that we had, and I just wanted to play other games. But if I'm not wrong, after Terran fell, we had mostly Rifle and another CEO, had a chat with the Recce guys about past problems, solving disputes that rounding them off were just silly nonsense, to be honest. In the end, we got together as a single group that now, as you know, is formed as Bot 5. We no longer work just alone as TLC. Thus, if you are seeing our videos right now, the latest one, we're just Bot 5, no longer just the Love Circle, because we wanted to form our own flag for making us our own name in the space. That's probably where we are right now. We are in Declan. Most of the good fights that we have is people coming at the gate and just the same old PvP. We don't like blue blobs. That's something that we are never interested. But we do think that no one is having a, how do I say, healthy relationship in PvP. Does make the game more fun, because all this propaganda nonsense and shit behind the scenes, it's just stressful.
All right, next up is Bob. Where you're hanging out with these days?
Well, I was in Gen Fed with Evo. Then I left them just because I was butting heads with some people in there. But then I just kind of fell off and did my own little thing, and I'm starting a concept of a training programs for FCs that don't FC so good. And currently I'm doing Pale Horse agreed to be my guinea pigs, and so I'm currently working with them, we're trying to get formulas together, and soon I'll be training them, and hopefully I can take this whole formula out and train others.
Nice subtle jab.
And Keltan, what about you? Are you returning to the game?
Yeah, so it's been a full year, almost to the day that I've been gone, and I came back and I started saying hi to people on Discord and stuff like that, and everyone was super excited. It was really cool to see. But I came back with just the intention of just going around and shooting things. I don't even care if there's only like 5 of us. I just came, I want to play the game again. You know, before I was leaving, I would barely even be able to get in the game because there was so much to do, and then everything on Discord was happening, so I'd stop mid-roam just to type and talk and stuff. But I like jumped into a few different corporations, some new guys, some old corporations, and everywhere I went, they were like, "Oh, welcome back to the game." And I was like, "Oh, I'm just trying to stay low, man." And right now, what I'm thinking, I still have control of ATLE, so what I think I'm gonna do is just, hey, let's just have a small corporation go around and shoot things. That's all I'm planning. I hear there's a lot of fun happening in Delve and in Fountain right now, and that's kind of like my homeland. So I think I might go over there and shoot some things.
That's the way to play, to be honest, because, well, we formed our group like that. We were just a group of friends shooting things and doing stuff.
Yeah,
that's I think
that's what I miss.
Form a good relationship with you. That's how we came to Terran, by shooting just things.
Well, plus I managed to get Batman back in the game, so.
Oh yeah, we saw Batman already, like zooming around somewhere.
Yeah.
I just spotted him in the he got spotted in Aliens chat by somebody of PHPC. And wait, don't we know this guy? And I just DM'd him and asked him if he's back in the game. He just said, yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna go shoot some things.
That's amazing.
Well, I appreciate you all coming out and doing this podcast with me. I hope you all future endeavors, and one day I will call upon all the TF sweepers to arise and take over New Eden again.
You're supposed to keep not supposed to say the goodbye part out loud, man.
Yeah,
It's fine to say it out loud. I just don't tell them the date. You know, that's the secret. Is when it's gonna happen.
Yeah, no, after Keltan just shoot things, he needs to launch another sub in Fountain to call it Terran Federation 2.0.
Could you imagine the rally call? That'd be fucking hilarious.
Yeah, but the second Starship Troopers movie was pretty bad.
Thank you for watching and listening to Pod Sessions. Be sure to return later this week with a new episode of your Eve Echoes weekly news update, and be sure to look out for future episodes of Pod Sessions. Thank you. Remember, we're always one vision, one purpose, one front.